His finger traced the curve of my jaw with ownership that made my blood boil and my skin burn. "Kneel," Adrian Whitford commanded, his voice smooth as expensive whiskey, cold as the marble floors beneath my feet. I'd walked into this mansion, desperate for a housekeeping job, and now the heir to a colonial fortune stood inches away, demanding submission like I was property he'd already purchased. Every instinct screamed to slap his hand away, to run. But my sister Chioma was dying 3,000 miles away, and this man held 15,000 pounds between me and her funeral. So I met those ice chip eyes and made a choice that would destroy us both. No. The word hung between us like a blade. Adrian's pupils dilated, his breath caught. And for one dangerous moment, I watched something crack behind that perfect aristocratic mask, something hungry and unhinged that recognized this match. "What did you say?" he whispered. I stepped closer, close enough to smell cedar and old money on his skin. "I said no. You want someone on their knees? Hire a different kind of worker. I came here to clean your house, not feed your God complex." His hand shot out, slamming the door I'd been reaching for. The sound echoed through the blue drawing room like a gunshot. We stood there, my back against 18th century oak, his arm caging me in, both of us breathing too hard. "No one," Adrian said slowly, "has ever refused me." "Then you've been surrounding yourself with the wrong people." Something flickered across his face, surprise, rage, and underneath it all, the most dangerous thing of all, fascination. He stared at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve, a language he'd never learned to speak. Then he stepped back, straightened his tie, and said the words that would seal both our fates. "You're hired. Start Monday, 6 a.m. sharp." But would I survive long enough to collect my first paycheck? Or would this beautiful broken man consume me whole before I had the chance to save my sister? Rain hammered the platform like bullets. I pressed my phone harder against my ear, trying to hear Kioma's labored breathing through the crackling international connection. "Amara, please," my sister wheezed. "Stop blaming yourself. I'm fine." "You're dying." The word tasted like metal, like failure. "The doctor said there's a new treatment, experimental, but how much?" Silence. Then, 15,000 pounds? I closed my eyes. My bank account held maybe 800 pounds. 6 weeks of savings from 3 part-time jobs that barely covered my London flat rent. I sent out 47 applications to proper positions, ones that matched my Cambridge degree in international development, and received 47 polite rejections. The crumpled newspaper in my pocket held one last option. I knew that name. Everyone in Surrey did. The Whitfords had made their fortune in colonial trade, the pretty word for empire, extraction, and exploitation. Their family tree, decorated history textbooks in the sections I'd learned to skip, the chapters about how, wealth gets built on other people's backs. "I have an interview today," I told Kioma, "at a big house. If I get it, I'll send money next week. You're too smart to be cleaning someone's toilets. And you're too young to die because I'm too proud to do what needs doing." After we hung up, I stared at my reflection in the train window. 26 years old, first-class degree, skin the rich brown of Lagos earth, hair in neat braids, wearing my only good interview suit. I look like someone who had options. I look like a liar. The train to Whitford Estate departed in 10 minutes. I boarded, shoving down the voice that whispered this was a mistake. Desperation makes you stupid. It makes you walk into beautiful prisons and thank your jailer for the key. The mansion looked like a museum that forgot to die. Persian rugs thick enough to drown in. Oil paintings of stern ancestors staring down from gilded frames. Windows reaching toward cathedral ceilings, letting in honey-colored light that made everything glow like heaven's waiting room. Mrs. Pemberton, the head housekeeper, was supposed to interview me. Instead, she'd escorted me to the blue drawing room and vanished without explanation. I'd been waiting 17 minutes when the door opened. He moved like violence in a three-piece suit. Tall, lean, every line of him tailored to perfection. Hair the color of dark honey, combed with the precision of someone who controlled every detail of his life. Eyes the pale gray of winter storms. Adrian Whitford, the Heir. I recognized him from society pages I'd scrolled past, from charity galas where the wealthy gathered to congratulate themselves on giving away pocket change. He didn't introduce himself. He just sat in the leather chair across from mine, folded his hands, and began dissecting me with questions. Why do you need this job specifically? Not need? Like he could smell desperation the way sharks smell blood. My sister is ill. Medical bills. What's the worst thing you've ever done for money? My jaw tightened. Nothing I'm ashamed of. That's not what I asked. Then ask better questions. His eyebrow lifted fractionally. The first crack in that frozen composure. You're educated. Cambridge, according to your CV. International development. Why are you here applying to dust mantles instead of saving the world? Because the world doesn't pay on time, and my sister can't wait for my idealism to become profitable. Honest. He leaned forward. Unusual. Most applicants try to convince me they've always dreamed of domestic service, that cleaning is their calling. Most applicants are liars trying to survive. I'm just the honest version. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. He stood abruptly, walking to the window before turning back to study me, like I was a painting he was considering purchasing. The last girl lasted 3 days, he said. Couldn't follow simple instructions. Be here at 6, not 6:05. Use the servant staircase, not the main hall. Don't speak unless spoken to. He circled behind my chair. I felt him stop close, too close, the heat of him against my back. Before I waste time training you, I need to know you can follow orders. I can follow reasonable ones. I don't deal in reasonable, I deal in obedience. His voice dropped lower, a purr with claws underneath. Prove it. He moved around to face me, tilted my chin up with one finger, forcing eye contact. His touch burned, everything about him burned, cold fire that would freeze you while it consumed. Kneel! The word landed like a physical blow. My mind went blank, then flooded with rage so hot I tasted copper. This man, this privileged, entitled, beautiful man thought he could command me like furniture, like property, like generations of his family had commanded mine. I stood so fast my chair scraped backward. I came here for a job, not whatever sick fantasy you're performing. Adrian's expression didn't change, but his pupils dilated. A tell. He'd expected submission or tears, not fury. You're refusing me. I'm leaving. I reached for the door. His hand shot past me, palm flat against the wood, blocking my exit. He didn't touch me, just caged me in with his arm, his body a wall I'd have to push through. You think, he said quietly, you can walk away from me? I turned to face him. We were inches apart now, close enough to count his eyelashes, to see the tiny scar above his left eyebrow, to watch his throat work as he swallowed. No one walks away from me, Adrian continued, voice dropping to something dangerous and raw. No one refuses me. No one. Then I'll be the first. Silence stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight. I watched emotions flicker across his face, too fast to name. Shock, anger, and underneath, buried so deep I almost missed it, relief. Like I'd passed a test he hadn't known he was giving. Adrian stepped back, smoothed his tie, became the frozen air again. All that dangerous heat locked back behind manners and breeding. He opened the door himself. You're hired. Start Monday, 6 a.m. Don't be late. I stared at him. What? You heard me. His eyes met mine, and for just a second I saw past the ice to something human and hurting underneath. Everyone I hire bends, breaks, disappears when I push too hard. You push back. So, you're hiring me because I told you no? I'm hiring you because you're the first person in 10 years who treated me like I'm not made of glass and gold. His jaw tightened. Don't make me regret it. He walked away, footsteps echoing on marble. I stood in the doorway of the blue drawing room. heart racing, hand shaking, knowing I just made a deal with the devil. But the devil paid well, and my sister needed to live. I'd figure out the cost later. The Whitford estate operated on invisible rules no one bothered to explain. I learned them through mistakes. Wrong staircase, wrong entrance, wrong hallway at the wrong hour. Each error earned me sharp looks from the other staff who watched me like I was a bomb that might explode. Mrs. Pemberton ran the household with military precision. You're assigned to the East Wing, dust, polish, launder, breakfast service at 7, lunch at 1, dinner at 8. You'll assist with formal events as needed. Stay out of Mr. Whitford's way. That last part proved impossible. Adrian appeared everywhere I wasn't supposed to be. In the library at dawn when I was dusting. In the garden when I hung linens. Standing on the second floor landing watching me scrub the entry hall marble on my hands and knees. He never spoke, just observed with those pale storm eyes, like I was an experiment he was documenting. On my third day, I found the first note, handwritten on expensive cream paper, placed on top of the silver I was assigned to polish. I counted. 200 pieces. I made it through 40 before time ran out. The next morning, another note, 3,000 volumes, an impossible task. I created a card catalog instead, cross-referencing both systems. More efficient, actually useful. The notes kept coming, each one a test designed for me to fail, but I stopped trying to complete them perfectly. I found better solutions instead. The time limits disappeared after the first week, but Adrian didn't. I couldn't sleep. 11 days at Whitford Estate, and I still hadn't called Kioma because I was afraid I'd cry. Afraid she'd hear how small I'd become. Scrubbing floors for the family whose ancestors had gotten rich off people who looked like us. The orangery was supposed to be locked. It wasn't. Inside smelled like citrus and neglect, old lemon trees growing wild, glass walls revealing moonlight and moors. I sat on a stone bench between forgotten plants, letting myself feel everything I've been swallowing. You're not supposed to be here, Austin. I jumped. Adrian sat in the corner shadows, barely visible, reading a leather-bound book by flashlight. Neither are you, I shot back. I own this place. That doesn't mean you belong here. He went very still, then slowly closed the book. I noted and looked at me properly. Why would you say that? I shrugged. You walk around like you're haunted, like these walls are a prison, not a home. Something cracked in his perfect composure. He set the book aside, leaned forward with elbows on knees. My father died at his desk 8 years ago. Heart attack. He was 49. I'm sorry. Don't be. He spent his life chained to this estate. Expectations heavier than the actual building. Legacy that treated him like a museum curator, not a person. Adrian's voice went flat. I inherited his prison. Some days I think the heart attack was an escape. The honesty shocked me. This wasn't the cold air who'd ordered me to kneel. This was something raw underneath, human and hurting. My sister has lupus, I heard myself say. Aggressive. The treatments in Nigeria aren't working. I left Lagos promising to send money, and every pound I earn feels like salvation and betrayal at the same time, like I'm building her life on my bones. Is that why you took this job? You already know why. I know you're desperate. I don't know if you blame me for it. I met his eyes. Should I? My family's wealth was built on trade routes that destroyed people like yours. So yes, you probably should. The honesty was a knife between us. Clean, sharp, refreshing in its cruelty. I don't blame you, I said finally. I blame the system. You're just living in the house it built. Doesn't that make me complicit? Probably. But I'm cleaning that house for money. Does that make me complicit too? We sat with that question. No answers, just two people trapped in different cages recognizing the bars. Adrian stood eventually. Thank you. For what? For not pretending I'm normal, that any of this is normal. He left. I stayed in the orangery until 3 a.m., feeling like something had shifted, like I'd seen behind his mask and he'd seen behind mine. It was terrifying. The envelope appeared on my pillow like a grenade. No name, No note, just 5,000 pounds in crisp bills and a typed card. Rage flooded me so fast I saw red. I stormed into Adrian's study without knocking, which violated about 6 household rules. He sat at his father's massive oak desk, surrounded by ledgers and whiskey he hadn't touched. I didn't ask for this. I threw the envelope at him. Bills scattered across contracts and spreadsheets. He didn't look up. I know. I don't want your pity. It's not pity, it's investment. If you're worrying about her, you're not focused on your job. Liar. I slammed my hands on his desk. You're trying to buy me. Finally. He looked at me. It really looked, with something burning behind the ice. If I wanted to buy you, I'd offer 10 times that. This is me ensuring you stay. There's a difference. Why do you care if I stay? Because you're the only person in this house who isn't afraid of me. The confession hung between us, raw, real. I picked up the money slowly, hated myself for needing it, hated him for understanding before I'd said a word. 3 months advance means I'm contracted to stay 3 months. Yes. And if I leave early, I'll consider it theft. His eyes glittered, and I'm very good at collecting debts. It should have sounded like a threat. Instead, it sounded like a plea. I pocketed the money. 3 months, then we're even. 3 months, Adrian agreed, but we both knew it was a lie. We were already too tangled to walk away clean. Everything changed after the money. Adrian stopped leaving impossible notes. Started leaving questions instead. I answered in the margins. We had full conversations in handwriting, him in precise cursive, me in quick print. He started timing his walks to coincide with my work schedule, not hovering, just existing in the same space, reading while I dusted, working on his laptop while I changed linens. Once I found him asleep at his desk at 2 a.m. I draped a blanket over his shoulders. He woke as I was leaving. Amara. First time he'd used my name. You should sleep in a bed like normal people. Normal people don't inherit collapse in empires. The estate is collapsing. He rubbed his eyes, looked young suddenly, breakable. The money's fine. The expectations are killing me. I sat on the edge of his desk. Dangerous territory. So change them. You say that like it's simple. It is simple. It's just not easy. He laughed. Actually laughed, sharp and bitter. You're very wise for someone scrubbing my floors. You're very stupid for someone who inherited a fortune. That surprised another laugh. This one's softer. Real. I like you, Adrian said quietly. That's inconvenient. For who? Both of us. He was right, but I didn't leave. I sat there until dawn, talking about everything except the thing we both felt growing between us, heavy and dangerous as storm clouds before lightning strikes. When I finally stood to start my shift, Adrian caught my wrist, gentle, questioning. Thank you, he said. You already thanked me in the orangery. I'm thanking you again for staying. You paid me to stay? No, I paid you to have a reason to stay. There's a difference. He released my wrist. I walked away feeling branded, like his fingerprints had burned through skin and marked something deeper. 3 months suddenly felt both too long and not nearly enough. Lady Eleanor summoned me on a Tuesday, not through Mrs. Pemberton, not through a note. She appeared in the hallway as I was carrying fresh linens and said simply, "Come with me." Her sitting room dripped with old money, ice blue silk wallpaper, inherited porcelain displayed in glass cabinets, portraits of Whitford women stretching back generations, all wearing the same expression, beautiful and cold and perfect. "Sit," Lady Eleanor commanded. I sat. She poured tea I didn't want, handed me a cup I didn't touch. Then she smiled, the kind of smile that promised knives hidden in silk. "You're wondering why I asked for you specifically." My blood went cold. I applied through the advertisement. Yes, the advertisement I had placed with very specific qualifications. Cambridge educated, Nigerian, age 25 to 28, strong-willed. She sipped her tea delicately. "I chose you, Miss Ullidale, from 47 applicants." The room tilted. Why? My son has been difficult since his father's death. Cold, mechanical. The therapist failed. The family advisor suggested medication. I knew he didn't need chemicals. He needed someone who wouldn't bend to him. You hired me to fix him. I hired you to save him. And judging by the way he looks at you now, like your oxygen, I'd say it's working. Nausea churned in my stomach. Every conversation, every moment, the money, the questions, all of it had been orchestrated by this woman with her tea and her porcelain and her complete lack of shame. You used me. I employed you. There's a difference. Lady Eleanor set down her cup. Adrian needs to feel again. You're making that happen. I'm grateful. And when I leave? Oh, you'll leave eventually. You must know that. Her smile sharpened. Adrian will marry someone from our world. Victoria Ashford Gray, most likely. Old family, appropriate connections. Your medicine, Miss Oladil, not a cure. Does he know that you orchestrated this? Of course not. He thinks he chose you. Men always need to believe they're in control. She stood smoothing her skirt. You have 2 weeks until the charity gala. I expect you to attend. Black uniform, serve drinks, watch my son remember how to smile. Then, when your contract ends, you'll leave quietly. I'll provide a generous reference. And if I tell him the truth, then you'll lose your position, your reference, and any chance of working in a respectable household again. I have considerable influence, Miss Oladell. Use it wisely. She dismissed me with a wave. I walked back to my room on numb legs, bile rising in my throat. Every moment with Adrian replayed in my head. Every conversation, every almost touch, every time he'd looked at me like I was real. Was I just performing a role his mother had written? Was any of it real? Or was I just a puppet in Lady Eleanor's play, dancing on strings I'd never seen? The ballroom glittered like a jewelry box. Crystal chandeliers, women in gowns worth more than my university tuition, men in tuxedos, laughing over champagne and deals that would shape markets. I wore the black uniform, carried trays, faded into wallpaper. Adrian stood near the orchestra, surrounded by admirers, and beside him, touching his arm, laughing at something he said, was Victoria Ashford Gray. Blonde, aristocratic, born into the kind of family where wealth was measured in centuries, not accounts. She looked at Adrian like he was already hers. Maybe he was. Their mothers orbited them like generals planning a merger. Lady Eleanor caught my eye across the room and smiled. Adrian did smile. Polite, empty. The exact smile he'd worn in our first interview before I'd told him no. Before the orangery, before everything. I refilled glasses, cleared plates, invisible, until Adrian needed more champagne. I approached, eyes down. The perfect servant lifted the tray toward him. His fingers brushed mine as he took the glass. He mouthed, Victoria saw. Her blue eyes sharpened like a hawk spotting prey. Adrian, darling, who's this? He didn't hesitate, didn't even blink. One of the staff. Not Amara, not the woman he'd talked to until dawn, not the person he'd trusted with his dead father and his prison of expectations. Just staff. I stepped back, face blank, heart crumbling like ash. Victoria's smile widened. She won a battle I didn't know we were fighting. I finished my shift on autopilot, cleared the last glass, retreated to the kitchen, scrubbed stemware until my hands cramped and my vision blurred. Because the worst part wasn't the dismissal. The worst part was understanding Adrian was two people. The man in the orangery who thanked me for seeing him, and the heir who erased me in a sentence the moment his world demanded it. I'd been naive to think the first man was real. The second was who he'd always been. The first was just a fantasy we'd both performed. The other staff had gone to bed. I stayed, scrubbing already clean counters, trying to wash away the humiliation. You're angry. I didn't turn, didn't need to. I'd recognize Adrian's voice in a crowd of thousands. I'm doing my job. Don't! He moved closer. I felt his presence behind me like heat from a fire. Don't pretend with me. I spun on him. You want honesty. Fine. I'm tired of being your secret rebellion, your emotional experiment. You talk to me when no one's watching, then act like I'm furniture the second your mother's friends show up. That's not fair. No, what's not fair is that your mother hired me to fix you. I threw down the towel. Did you know? Or were you in on it too? Adrian's face drained of color. Actually drained. From pale to ashen. What are you talking about? Your mother, she told me everything, how she chose me specifically. Cambridge-educated, Nigerian, strong-willed. She needed someone who wouldn't be, and so you'd remember how to feel. I'm not an employee, Adrian. I'm a prescription your mother wrote. He staggered back a step. I swear I didn't know. Does it matter? She's right, isn't she? You needed someone to make you feel human again, and I played my part perfectly. That's not what this is. Then what is it? I stepped toward him because from where I'm standing, it looks like you use me for therapy when it's convenient, then shove me back in my box when your real life shows up. Victoria looked nice tonight. Very appropriate. Is that the wedding I'm supposed to serve drinks at too? Stop. Why? Isn't that what I'm here for, to serve? You know that's not... His voice cracked. You're twisting everything. No, I'm seeing it clearly for the first time. My throat burned. There is no us, Adrian. There's you, the heir who will always choose this estate, this legacy, this performance. And there's me, the woman you pay to clean your floors and make you feel something. That's all this ever was. That's not true. Then prove it. Go back to that ballroom right now and tell Victoria you're not interested. Tell your mother I'm not just staff. Show me I'm not just medicine you take when you're feeling hollow. Silent stretch. Adrian stood there, chest heaving, eyes wild with something that looked like panic, but he didn't move toward the door. He didn't move at all. I can't, he whispered. I know. I grabbed my jacket. That's why I'm leaving. I gave my notice this morning. What? 3 months is almost up. Consider your debt paid. I'm done playing this game. I walked toward the servants' exit. Adrian didn't stop me this time. Didn't say another word. I made it to my room before I started crying. Silent, furious tears for being stupid enough to believe that talking until dawn meant something. That a man born into empire could choose a woman who cleaned his house. Lady Eleanor had been right. I was medicine, not a cure. And Adrian would always choose the prison he knew over the freedom he feared. I avoided him, took overnight shifts, swapped assignments with other staff. If I saw him in a hallway, I turned around. Cowardly? Maybe. But I'd spent weeks letting him under my skin, and now I needed to extract him before the infection spread. On day 3, I found my schedule rewritten in Adrian's handwriting, his work hours. He'd literally scheduled me into his space. I crumpled the paper. Considered ignoring it, but Mrs. Pemberton would ask questions, and I needed the reference Lady Eleanor had promised. So at 8 p.m., I showed up with cleaning supplies and silence. Adrian sat at his desk, surrounded by ledgers. He didn't look up when I entered. We need to talk, he said. No, you need to work, and I need to dust your shelves. Amara, it's Miss Oladale, sir. He flinched, actually flinched. Good. I started dusting with aggressive efficiency. Shelves, windowsills, the grandfather clock that had witnessed 4 generations of Whitfords making terrible decisions. Stop, Adrian said quietly. I have a job to do. Stop! He swept the ledgers off his desk in one violent motion. Papers exploded across the floor like wounded birds. I froze. He crossed to me in 3 strides, not touching, just standing close enough that I could see his chest heaving, his hands shaking, his carefully constructed control completely shattered. Stop punishing me for something I can't control, he said, voice raw. You mean you're cowardice? You think I'm a coward? He laughed, bitter and broken. I've spent 32 years doing everything right. Every expectation. Every demand, because one mistake would destroy 4 generations of work. My father died at this desk trying to save the estate from debt. I can't just choose you and let it all burn. Then don't. My eyes stung. But stop pretending you're trapped. You have choices. You're just too scared to make them. And what would you have me do? He grabbed my shoulders, desperate, not rough. Walk into that ballroom and declare I'm in love with the housekeeper? Watch my mother have a heart attack? See the board of trustees dissolve the trust? Lose everything my family built? In love. The word stuck in my throat. His grip loosened. He looked horrified, like he'd revealed something he wasn't ready for. I didn't. That's not. You said you're in love with me. I said. He released me, ran both hands through his hair. I'm terrified of you. You make me want things I can't have. A life where I'm not performing, where someone knows me and stays anyway. I was staying until your mother told me I was a prescription. Until you called me one of the staff in front of Victoria. I panicked. She was watching. Exactly. You panicked because your real world showed up and I don't fit in it. I never will. Adrian's face twisted. So what then? I'm supposed to just let you leave? Watch you walk away because I'm not brave enough to blow up my entire life? Yes, the word cracked. Because I'm not your experiment in rebellion. I'm not medicine for your loneliness. I'm a woman who needs to survive. And you're a man who will always choose this estate over anything real. Tell me what real looks like, he begged. Real as you walking into that ballroom and introducing me by name. Real as you standing up to your mother and saying I'm not a tool. Real as you deciding I'm worth the risk. I can't do that. I know. I picked up my cleaning supplies. That's why I'm leaving. My notice stands. 1 week left. Amara, please. Goodbye, Adrian. I walked out, left him standing in his study, surrounded by scattered papers and the ghost of words he couldn't take back. He'd said he was falling in love with me, then in the same breath said he couldn't do anything about it. That was the cruelest thing of all. Not that he didn't love me, but that he did, and it still wasn't enough. I packed my single suitcase mechanically. 3 months of life at Whitford Estate fit into one bag. Funny how little space heartbreak takes of Mrs. Pemberton knocked, entered without waiting for permission. You're making a mistake, she said. I'm protecting myself. No, she sat on my bed heavily. You're protecting him, and that boy's been protected his whole life. Sometimes love means making someone fight for you or learning they won't. He won't fight. He said so himself. He said he's scared. That's different. Mrs. Pemberton fixed me with a look that had probably terrified 40 years of staff. I watched that boy grow up, watched his father work himself to death for this estate. Adrian spent his entire life doing what's expected. You're the first person who ever made him want something for himself. Wanting isn't enough. Maybe not, but running away isn't brave either. It's just a different kind of fear. She left. I stood in the middle of my small room, suitcase packed, key in my pocket. 1 week left, then I'd leave this place. Leave Adrian to his appropriate marriage and his inherited prison. Leave behind the stupid fantasy that love could bridge the canyon between our worlds. Mrs. Pemberton was wrong. This wasn't fear. This was survival. I had said goodbye to no one. Couldn't risk Keoma hearing the grief in my voice. Couldn't face Mrs. Pemberton's knowing eyes. Wouldn't see Adrian one last time. I left my key on the kitchen counter, picked up my suitcase, walked toward the servants' entrance I'd used for 3 months. The estate didn't burn. The world didn't end. I just left, and Adrian let me. No dramatic chase scene, no declaration in the rain, no Hollywood ending where the rich man gives up everything for love. Just silence. Just goodbye. I made it to the train station as dawn broke. Bought a ticket to London with money I'd earned scrubbing floors for a man who'd loved me just enough to let me go. My phone rang as the train pulled away. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Whatever Adrian had to say now, apology, explanation, goodbye, it was 3 days too late. The Whitford estate disappeared behind trees and morning mist. I watched it vanish, feeling something crack in my chest that I knew would never fully heal. Mrs. Pemberton had been right about one thing. This was a different kind of fear. Fear of hoping, fear of staying, fear that if I waited one more day, one more hour, I'd have become the kind of woman who accepted crumbs and called it love. Better to leave hungry than starve on scraps. The studio apartment cost half my Whitford earnings. Cramped, loud, mine. I'd sent the rest to Kioma. Her voice on the phone had been stronger. Actually strong. The treatment was working. She'd live. I'd sacrificed my pride, my heart, and 3 months in a gilded cage, but she'd live. Worth it. Had to be worth it. I was scrolling through job listings when the knock came. A courier with a package inside, a leather-bound journal, and a handwritten letter. My hands shook as I unfolded the cream paper. My hands shook so hard the letter crumpled. I read it again and again. He'd given up the estate, the legacy, everything. For me, no. The letter was clear. For himself, to become someone he could respect. I'd just been the catalyst, the person who'd refused to let him hide. A knock at the door, different from the courier's polite tap. This one was desperate. I opened it. Adrian stood in my hallway in jeans and a sweater. No tailoring, no armor, hair messy, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. He looked terrified. You gave up the estate, I said. I gave up performing. There's a difference. Your mother disowned me over breakfast yesterday. I'm officially a disappointment to 4 centuries of Whitfords. He smiled weakly. Turns out I'm okay with it. I searched his face for lies, for hesitation, for any sign this was another performance. Found none. You didn't have to do this, I said. Yes, I did. You were right. I was choosing safety over truth. A comfortable prison over uncertain freedom. I'd rather be brave and broke than safe and hollow. You're not broke. You liquidated a trust fund. Semantics. He stepped closer, tentative. I don't need you to rescue me, Amara. I need you to save me from becoming my father, from a life where I'm everyone except myself. I can't fix you. I don't want you to. I want you to see me, the real me, without the estate and the expectations and the performance, and decide if that's enough. We stood in my doorway, years of class and history and hurt between us. I don't know how to do this, Adrian said quietly. The real thing. No scripts, no strategy, no backup plan if it fails. But if you're willing to teach me, I pulled him inside, kissed him hard, not gentle, not careful, or angry and hungry and real. He froze for half a second, then kissed back with the same desperate energy, like I was air and he'd been drowning. When we broke apart, I pressed my forehead to his. Lesson 1, stop apologizing for wanting things. What's lesson 2? Come inside before my neighbors start gossiping. We didn't move in together immediately. I made him earn it. Prove this wasn't just dramatic gesture that would fade when reality set in. He got a flat 3 blocks away. Found a job at his own foundation. Grant review, not galas. Actually working, not just signing checks. We had dinner 3 times a week. Argued about dishes and politics and whether it was romantic or toxic. Both. We eventually agreed. Slowly, carefully, we built something real. I finished my master's in public health. Adrian showed up to my graduation. No photographers, no performance, just him in the audience clapping louder than anyone. When we finally moved in together, we chose Bristol. Far enough from Whitford Estate that we could breathe, close enough to London for my work. The flat was modest, sunlit, ours. Chioma visited in December. Healthy, radiant. She pulled me aside while Adrian was cooking dinner. He's good for you, she said. I know. Not because he gave up everything, because he looks at you like you're the point. She was right. Adrian looked at me like I invented color, like I was both question and answer. We didn't marry. Not yet. We were still learning each other, how to fight fair, how to dream together, how to exist outside the roles we'd been born into. But we talked about it, about what marriage would mean for us, what legacy we'd build. One night, curled up on our secondhand couch, Adrian asked, "Do you ever regret it? Everything that happened?" Regret what? You being a complete nightmare in that interview? He laughed. I was testing you. You were being a controlling prick. That too. He kissed my temple. But I'm glad you said no. Me too. Why? I thought about it. About the woman I'd been on that rain-soaked train platform, desperate, broken, ready to accept any scraps. Because you taught me that love isn't about bending. I said, it's about both people standing straight and choosing each other anyway. 3 months later, we launched the Lagos clinic. Kioma cut the ribbon. Healthy and laughing, Adrian stood beside me, holding my hand, no longer the heir to anything except the life we were building together. Lady Eleanor sent a card. Adrian didn't open it. The Whitford estate still stood in Surrey, pristine, cold, perfect, a museum to a legacy that had cost 4 generations their humanity. But we'd escaped, and we were building something warmer. A tabloid photographer caught us in a Bristol park. The photo made the gossip pages. We were sitting on a bench, my head on his shoulder, his hand in mine, laughing about something stupid, probably an inside joke about Dustin or orangeries, or the night I told him to kneel and he'd look like I'd punched him. The photo was unflattering. Real, perfect. Adrian framed it. Why? I asked. Because it's us. Not performing, not hiding, just us. He was right. We weren't a fairy tale. We were messier than that, more complicated. We had hard conversations about privilege and class and the ways history haunted our relationship like a ghost we couldn't exorcise. But we had each other without scripts, without performance. And somehow that was enough.